Hello and welcome to episode 75 of the Perfect Gentleman podcast. I'm James Marwood and I'll be your host today as we talk a little bit about some of the things that have been in the news around our topics of gentlemanly behaviour, style, and looking after yourself over the past week or so. And as you'll know from the previous episode, which I'm sure you've listened to, episode 74, where I talked about summer suiting, as we're all starting to come out of lockdown, people are starting to spend a little bit more time and attention on what they're wearing. A lot of us, me included, have been spending far more time in jogging bottoms and shorts and t-shirts and hoodies over the past 16, 17 months. And there's some really interesting information from the Sourcing Journal, which is a sort of market intelligence organization and blog on sales of suits in New York and California. So areas that were early into lockdown and early out of it. They're starting to see quite a lot of increase in tailored apparel and casual suiting. So they're the categories they use. What do they mean? Well, tailored apparel is basically your traditional suits. Casual suiting are the sorts of summer suits I was talking about in the last episode. Lighter colours, slightly looser or less constructed manufacture, and lighter cloths, generally linen, silk, seersucker, silk blends, things like that. And it's interesting, I think, in how we're approaching those. So there are increasing amounts of focus on slightly stretch materials. So Levi's, for example, have started doing stretch chinos, stretch khakis, and they're focusing on those in a way that they haven't for quite a while. You're also seeing that in suits. You're seeing more and more suits in the high street stores that have a little bit of stretch to them. Now, some of us need that because if, like me, you've put a bit of weight on over lockdown, you need that little bit of stretch to be comfortable. But also, I think it's as we've spent all that time in joggers and shorts and tracksuits that we're starting to feel a little bit more comfort, and we want a little bit more comfort in our clothing. You can absolutely do that in tailored clothes, well-cut suits, well-cut jackets, trousers, either casual or formal, can all be really comfortable. And actually, I would argue, often are much more comfortable than jeans because of that stretch. But one of the ways that cotton, for example, has always been the difficult cloth to work with for suits because it doesn't stretch in the same way that wool does. By adding a little bit of lycra or other synthetic materials to a suit or to a pair of trousers, be that cotton or wool, you can increase the amount of stretch and therefore increase how comfortable it is, and often at the same time increase how resistant it is to creasing, which is all to the good. And seeing this news of more men choosing to buy that sort of casual suiting, to be a little bit more playful, hopefully, with how they incorporate tailored clothing into their wardrobe is only a good thing. You know, I love a good suit, but equally I love to wear less formal but still slightly tailored clothing in my casual wear. So, for example, this past weekend I went out for drinks with my partner. Loads of guys I saw wearing just jeans and t-shirt, which is always a shame when they're with partners who are dressed up. I think it's much more respectful for me to dress up a little bit as my partner does. So if she's making sure to have her makeup and her hair just right and she's getting her clothes right to go out, I want to do the same. So I went with a pair of relatively dressy chinos. So like tan colour, sort of dark brown chinos with a little bit of stretch, flat front, so they are relatively casual, but they were smarter than a pair of jeans and smarter than a pair of combats or something like that you might choose as an alternative. And I paired that with a polo shirt and a casual jacket. So the polo shirt was a long sleeve polo. It's always slightly more formal. One with a slightly larger than normal collar. So it's a collar that will stand up better under a jacket and not be squashed down. It's a little bit larger. You're talking maybe just an eighth of an inch larger than on a standard polo shirt, but it's also slightly stiffer and without a logo in a relatively small color. So this one was a dark red, which is a color I really like for that sort of evening, not quite formal, not quite informal, smart casual, I guess you could call it. And paired that with a jacket, which was a Harrington jacket, so a very casual style, but one that works well with chinos and can work well with jeans, but equally can work with more formal trousers to make an overall less formal outfit. I'm seeing more and more of that sort of thing, and this report from the Sourcing Journal really suggests that that's the more men are playing with that, which is all to the good. Really happy to see that. Another thing that's cropping up all over the place, so you'll see it in GQ, you'll see it in Sainsbury's magazine, and lots of others, are articles about summer skincare. And I know Zach has talked about that recently when he was talking about grooming, but I want to add some of my thoughts to that. And it's easy, I think, to get sucked into these articles that give very prescriptive advice and say you must do this or you must do that or this is the brand to buy, and often they're suggesting really expensive brands, and you could end up spending 30, 40, 50, £100 on some moisturizer because that's the best to get. And I want to give some of my thoughts from my experience. So I often have what is often referred to as problem skin or troubling skin. I'm prone to rashes. I'm prone to eczema. My skin's quite ruddy naturally because of my fair colouring, and I don't do well in sunlight. I don't tan. I just burn. So I have to be really careful with this sort of stuff. And so I go with I start with a traditional sort of 2-2-2 approach. So that is washing twice a day, moisturising twice a day, and then exfoliating twice a week. Relatively basic. And if you're looking for where to start with a skincare routine for summer or winter, that's the place to start. Wash in the morning, wash in the evening, moisturise after you've washed, and then exfoliate a couple of times a week. And exfoliating just means you're using a scrub of some kind. Chemical scrub, physical scrub, doesn't really matter. But I don't think you need to get too carried away with brands. I would tend to look at at brands that are not hugely expensive because you're going to be using this every day and you don't want to be spending huge amounts of money every time. But also ideally brands that don't have lots of harsh chemicals in, or that are going to really dry your skin or make your skin really oily with the moisturizer. I really like brands like Number 7, which is a British brand, very, very reasonably priced. L'Oreal, some of their L'Oreal men's stuff can be a bit spendy, but it's mostly okay. But also recently, I've been using loads of stuff from Harry's, which is an American shaving company, and they do really good, really reasonably priced moisturizers. For example, their daily moisturizer, it's great. It's like £7, I think I paid for it, and it will last me probably one small bottle will last me easily 2-3 months. It's a very small investment, pennies a day. So that's if you like the basics. But as it comes into summer, we need to be careful about the moisturizer we use, especially those of us with fair skin. But actually, anybody, even guys with really dark skin who either tan really easily or who just naturally don't burn, you still need to be careful of the damage that the sun can cause. And that means you want to be getting a moisturizer with some sun protection, with an SPF. Now, I tend to go quite high because I burn really easily. SPF 15 at a minimum, more usually 30. You don't maybe need to go that high, and you can experiment and find out what works with your skin. But I would really strongly recommend finding a moisturizer that has an SPF in it, and that will both protect you from burning, but also will deal with and manage some of those long-term harmful effects of the sun on your skin. Can lead to things like melanoma and skin cancer, which we definitely don't want, but also can lead to premature aging and make your wrinkles and blemishes in your skin look stronger than they actually are. And so the simple change of switching your moisturizer or adding a moisturizer with a sun protection factor can make a big difference. So I would really strongly recommend that. And if you're looking to extend out from that 2-2-2 routine, you could add in things like eye creams. I tend to do that because my eyes often have dark smudges under them. I'm just naturally prone to it. Eye cream sorts that right out for me. You can look at a toner and putting a tone in between your wash and your moisturize, cleanse, tone, and moisturize. Ask your girlfriend or your mum about that; she'll know all about it. And also, I think what's quite useful to do is maybe switch your evening moisturize for a night cream. Chances are your mum, your girlfriend, the girls you work with, they will all do this anyway. You can use the same moisturizer as them, but men's skin tends to be a little bit thicker and a little bit more robust and less naturally smooth than ladies' skin. We don't have our bodies don't have the same hormones that make for that fine, smooth skin, so we need to give it a little bit extra care, and that's where a night cream that's geared towards men can make all the difference. I also, for the last couple of months, have been using Harry's night cream. A little bit more expensive. I think it's about £30 for a jar. That jar will probably last me all year, but it's great. It's working really well for me. I had to experiment with it with a couple of different kinds to find one that I really liked. You can do the same. Strongly recommend it. Give it a go. So that's it. That's really how to deal with those summer skincare articles. Take the useful elements from them. Don't get sucked into buy this brand, buy that brand. Experiment with a few brands. Find what works for you, but you don't need to spend a fortune. Okay. And then the final thing in the news that I saw that I thought was really great and really good to see was, as you're probably aware, at the moment the European Championships are going on, the European Football Championships, and it led to the first time in a long time, as long as I can, first time for as long as I can remember, to England-Scotland matches in a competitive cup. So England and Scotland are historically great rivals, politically and militarily, but in recent years that's mostly been around sport. England have usually had the advantage and have had most of the running in the football games, or at least have generally been considered to have a better side. That didn't really prove to be the case in their recent matchup, where, despite the fact that I'm an England fan, I think we were lucky to get a draw in that game. I was really pleased to see the Scotland team play their hearts out, and I think the England team could learn a bit from that. But what was especially great to see was the day after the match, on the Sunday morning, Scottish fans, and not a small number, but a significant proportion of Scottish fans, out in Leicester Square, where they'd all been gathered and celebrating, picking up rubbish. Not the sort of thing you expect to see from football fans. We saw things like that from the Japanese in the World Cup, and it was remarkable. Seeing those Japanese fans picking up the litter as they left the stadium and leaving the place spotless. Seeing the Scots do that in Leicester Square on the Sunday morning after the team have been really unfortunate to get a draw, and where they've probably had a fair bit to drink the night before, as most football fans would have done. Getting up in the morning and doing that sort of thing was just fantastic to see. So my hat is absolutely off to the Scottish fans who did that. They're the guys who are great ambassadors for Scotland, great ambassadors for football, great ambassadors for the whole of the UK. Great to see. More of it, please. And if any England fans are listening, we should do the same thing. that's it for me talking about the news. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Do let me know if you have any comments or thoughts on this. The social media is linked below, whether P Gentlemen in both most areas. I'm usually at Marwood or at Marwood Chap on Twitter. You will find me through any of those. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there are other things you'd like me to take a look at. And also, let me know what you're doing for the summer. I'm really keen to see some summer looks, see the suits you're wearing, see how you're mixing tailoring into your casual wardrobe, especially if you're going to any events, and how you're getting on from lockdown living, and if you're like me in joggers and t-shirts for months, into more stylish wear. Anyway, have a great week. Take care.